Hey guys, I am Sean from the Comics Pals. We are here live at New York Comic Con 2023. It is Friday, and I'm going to tell you right now that this place is absolutely packed. There are a ton of people here, and you know what? I'm standing next to one of my favorites. I am standing next to the artist behind Deadly Class, one of my favorite books of all time, and the artist and writer of a new favorite of mine, Kaya. Is it okay if we just show that to the people? Yes, I'm here with Wes Craig. So,
hello.
So Wes, we've spoken before, and at that time, Deadly Class was kind of gearing up for the end.
Yeah.
And since then, it has ended. I was very sad, but I was very grateful as well because you and Rick were able to tell your story, and you were able to tell it over the course of many years. It became a cult hit, a huge success, and I think it really catapulted you guys in a lot of ways into a different stratosphere. So when you reflect on that time and kind of ending that book, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we were going to end it around, issue number 50, and I'm happy we were able. There was no rush, it's just you wanted to, 50 sounds like a good number, but
Right.
we gave it the room that it needed to breathe, to end it properly, to give it the space that it needed to kind of tell everyone's story and end everyone's story properly, whether it be on the sad side or the happy side,
Yeah.
depending on what happens to them. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It was 9 years, 10 years, working with Rick, and it honestly, it completely changed my life, changed my comic book life, at least.
Yeah.
I was just kind of a workman artist doing a job here for Marvel, a job there for DC, whatever,
Right.
which was it's all I ever wanted to do, but at the same time it never felt like it was building towards any kind of I wanted to have a nice run on a book, and it just never really seemed to be happening.
Yeah.
And then Rick gave me the call, and we got along, and it's I remember the first convention I went to after that was announced, and it's I meant to meet up with a bunch of other comic book creators, and they said, this is Wes Craig, and they're he's the guy that does Deadly Class, and it's a bunch of people knew who I was from that. They did, oh, cool, I like that comic. And I'm that's all I ever wanted, man. I just want a little bit of recognition, and I'm happy, So yeah, it really changed. Coming to conventions, I can see the difference. There's so many people that come to the table.
Yeah.
A lot of people say it's their first comic. A lot of people say it got them back into comics. There's people that run comic book shops and that work at comic book shops where they love it, and those are the soldiers, they're they're hand selling it to new people in the shop and stuff. So yeah, it's been amazing, and it's allowed me to do Kaya now, which is I've never. I was if I'm gonna do it my own thing where I'm writing and drawing it, now's the time. Where I'm still hot off of Deadly Class. It's now's the time to kind of do. So I went straight into it. It's the last issue of Deadly Class came out, and then the first issue of Kaya came out right after. Because I just wanted to kind of stay out there.
Yeah. That was actually incredible timing, and when you talk about people saying that Deadly Class was their first book, whether it's because of quite frankly, the iconography of that book, because I think there's a very definitive look and feel to that book that attracts people. And I think it attracts people who aren't necessarily, I think it attracts comics fans, but I think it also appeals to people who haven't read comics.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Because it's not a genre-specific kind of world. It's just, it's relatively speaking. There's an assassin academy, but aside from that, the world is relatively real.
Yeah.
It's a throwback to the 1980s, but it's still something that people can relate to. I think one of the nice aspects of it that I saw, similar to Chris Claremont and John Byrne doing X-Men back in the day, seeing a cast of characters that are international, that are from different parts of the world, that represent a lot of different people.
Yes.
That was nice, because I'd sit here at my table, and I would see people, a young Asian girl that saw Saya on the thing, and
Right.
oh, what's that about? And you connect with different characters, you see yourself in these characters and stuff. So I think that was really cool, seeing all the different types of people. Always adult though. The nice thing for me doing Deadly Class, kids would come by once in a while. They think the image was cool, and I'm there's a certain age limit. I don't, if they came with a parent, I was you got to check it out first, and maybe if you're okay with it, give it to them. But now Kaya is a bit more kind of general audience.
Sure.
Now I can have kids come by and be no problem, you can read this. It's not gonna haunt your dreams or anything.
Totally. And speaking of Kaya, this has become one of my favorite books on the stands.
Thank you.
You're welcome, because of the fact that it has the look of Deadly Class, because of course you're the artist from that, but it goes in such a different direction. Deadly Class was very, like you said, rooted in the real world with a twist.
Yeah.
This is a completely new world with completely new characters. There are humans, but there are a lot of other things too. There are mutants, there are robots. So it feels like Wes Craig, this is how I think about it, it feels like Wes Craig unleashed. It feels like you're getting to go absolutely wild. You know, you couldn't do some of this stuff in Deadly Class. Now you get to do whatever the heck you want to do.
Yeah, that was a big. Some of it was like people ask like where did you come up with the idea and stuff like that. And a lot of it was percolating before I even started on Deadly Class, a very different version of what Kaya became, and it slowly kind of morphed into like what it is now. As I was working on Deadly Class, especially when I was finishing up the last few story arcs, I was writing out all the first, second, third book of Kaya, and it's a lot of that. Is that you spend a long time in one world, and you just kind of want to, you know, it's like 9 years doing like this set in the real world kind of Deadly Class thing. You want to just, like you said, go crazy, and be like, I'm gonna put like every type of character that I want to draw in here. There's, like you said, there's robots, there's giant flying bats, there's all kinds of fantasy stuff, and also like sticking with one style is kind of tough for me. Back in the day, I would always just switch styles. I would see Mobius, and I want to draw like Mobius. Then I look at some Hellboy, I want to draw like Mignola, and like I was always trying to jump between styles, and like I solidified it on Deadly Class, which was just inspired by like stuff from the 80s, like David Mazzucchelli on Year One, and like the Gross Hernandez, like the Hernandez brothers on Love and Rockets and stuff, like the very stark black and whites. Punk rock posters that are always like, you know, like simple color, black, white, very like minimal. And now, you know, with Kaya, it's like I wanted to jump into, like you said, I still want to have my style, but there's like a extra little different thing over it, which is it's a fantasy world, so there's some watercolor that I do on it. The colors are a bit more rich and a bit more kind of I don't know, like immersive or whatever, you know. So it's like, but that's what I think of when I think of fantasy stuff. I think of Frank Frazetta paintings. I think of stuff like that where it's a bit more kind of, you know, like misty and ethereal and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, just it's fun. Writing wise and artistic wise is fun, and like you're in one style for a while. It's nice to kind of stretch out into a different style.
And I think one of the things that intrigued me so much about this book from a visual standpoint is that I think I can feel that you have total autonomy, because some of the panels and page layouts are just wild, and like I feel like they could only come from the mind of someone who thinks visually, someone who's very tuned into what's going to look great on the page and how to deliver the story from a visual standpoint. So it feels very synergistic. The Deadly Class did as well, absolutely, but it's all you now, and I feel like I feel like that comes across.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just kind of, yeah, I mean, that's one of the joys of it, really, is that I also, like, you write it out for yourself, but then you can kind of, you don't have to, there's not the in-between stage where a writer has to contact an artist. It's all happening in my own head, and it's like I'm figuring out the page layouts as I go, and I don't have to, as I'm writing it, the visuals are happening naturally in my head. I know where the camera's going to be, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, I mean, to keep myself fully engaged and interested in Deadly Class, I did a lot of crazy, I mean, to me it was crazy stuff with layouts, you know, just trying to mess with the storytelling and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, when a comic is going on for that long, you have to kind of keep yourself like engaged by kind of trying new tricks and doing, you know, different things for to keep yourself like engaged in the work for 56 issues or whatever it was, you know. That's a lot of issues. I'm trying to kind of make it a bit more straightforward with Kaya, again, because it's like young comic book readers. I don't want them to be confused, but also like, yeah, there's certain things I can't help. It's how my brain works. It's like I like to try new interesting things with the storytelling and stuff. And yeah, it's just trying to keep it fun for myself.
I mean, my God, the issue with Jin, where he's trying to you know, for those of you who don't know, who haven't read it yet, which you really, really should, go pick up Kaya. It's incredible. Jin is this prince who thinks that he's going to have these magic powers, and in this particular issue, he really, really needs them to come through for him. And that entire sequence where it's like, do I have these powers, do I not, and all of that was not only visually incredible, but I also love the fact that it allowed me, that issue was where I fell in love with Jin. Because it's like he's kind of annoying, you know. He's kind of, but I really want him to get through this. I want him to have magic powers. You know what I'm saying? And so seeing that journey in his mind, and then the way that you brought that to life from a visual standpoint, it was incredible. That was my favorite issue of the series so far.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's true. Actually, there's it's like the dream sequence. He's caught in like I'm calling it the dark realm, where it's just like it's like it's a little bit like I'm trying to think of the Aboriginal like dream time or something that's called. It's just it's like a dream world, but it's kind of real, you know. That was one of those opportunities where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to some of my Deadly Class stuff where I'm gonna do a lot of tiny little panels,
Yeah.
a little crazy, and I'm like, if people love my stuff on Deadly Class, like what I did there, it's like here's my opportunity to go a little bit more weird, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of like panels going into panels and snaky things and all kinds of stuff like that.
So cool.
Weird
So
like
cool.
the coloring is like I did the coloring for that just because it's like black and white with like just a yellow on top of Jin, you know. Yeah, so that was like an opportunity to go a little bit wild, and he's gonna go back into that world as the story unfolds once in a while, and those will be my chances to kind of try different styles and go a little crazy with the panel layouts, and then come back to the real world where it's a bit more like standard storytelling, you know, like panel like when I say standard storytelling, I just mean nothing no crazy layouts, just kind
Right.
of like pretty basic like panel stuff like that, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the most impressive thing for me about this book is the fact that everyone thinks of you as Wes Craig, the artist. But I think what you've made the stamp now is you're Wes Craig, the dual threat, because of the fact that this is actually, to me, a very deep story. I got a lot out of this because it seems like it's a story about identity. And everybody in the book, in some way, seems to be struggling with their identity. And the kind of predestination that happens when people tell you who you are versus you deciding for yourself who you are. Again, Jin, he's been told he's the golden one. He has magic. He's going to be, all these things.
Yeah.
Well, is he? Is that what he wants for himself? Is he going to manifest it, or is it just going to happen for him?
Yeah.
Zothan, him shedding his skin and thinking he can become someone else just because he shed his skin,
Yeah.
and the fact that it's not that simple. There's so much happening in this book, and if you pay attention, I think it's more than just a visual treat. I think it's a beautiful story.
I appreciate it, man. It's like that's exactly what it is. You're paying attention because I don't know if that's necessarily. It is going to be an overarching like theme of like just not over like underneath
Sure.
the action and everything. There is something about but especially honestly, like I wrote that in the script. Like when I was writing it out for myself, like this first two story arcs like is about identity. Is about and then those are the two main characters where it's like, can you just become something else? Can you change yourself? Can people ever change?
Right.
Are they stuck in their ways? Or just exploring those kind of ideas through the different characters, especially Jin. And it's like kind of he has the trope of the chosen one, which has been done a lot and people have seen it a lot of times. So I was a little bit like, okay, well I can't just do the standard. I have to find find a spin on it that's a little bit more interesting. And I think that's part of it is how the chosen one thing relates between Kaya and Jin, because it's kind of like. I mean, it's getting a little bit too inside, too deep in the weeds or whatever. But in Chosen One stories, and traditionally it's one person who, like a King Arthur or a Jesus or a Moses or
Sure,
whatever,
yeah.
born into poverty, but they have a special thing inside of them that they're chosen by, whether it be God or England to protect England with the sword and the stone or whatever. And it's like the way that I play with that in Kaya is like Kaya is the one that's been raised in like I don't know, working class settings.
Yeah.
And Jin is like this prince up here, and it's like to get together they kind of combine into that chosen one kind of thing in a way, the way that they relate to each other.
That makes sense.
So it's like it's gonna see how that relationship works over time, But identity is a big one for that, and I've been writing since I was going back to just being a writer artist. It's like I've been writing since I was a kid. I've always written my own stories, not fan stuff for Marvel or DC. It's always been just making up my own worlds and drawing them and writing them. But it's just like when the art takes off, before the art is what took off first.
Sure.
What was paying the bills. You get better at the art. A little bit like Rick Remender started as an artist and a writer. It's just like his writing took off first, my art took off first. But I always wanted to do both things, and now it's kind of like this. I just want to keep it going long enough because it's kind of my dream has always just been to write and draw my own thing. Deadly Class was like so close to it because I was in the middle of it. I felt very, very much a part of it, and Rick included me in the stories quite a bit. But now it's like this is kind of my perfect scenario where it's just I love writing and drawing my own stuff. And I've always been working up to that, but I feel like Kaya is the first time where I feel, you're always trying to get better, but I felt relatively confident. I was like, I think this has it. I think it's a pretty good story. It's so hard to like separate yourself from the work and know whether it's good or not, but seeing people's reaction, that helps, and I felt confident in the story,
You absolutely should. They gave me the call sign. I want to ask you just one more question, because I think it's the first standalone story.
Yeah.
In the back matter, you give a very detailed layout of what it takes to be a creator, and as a creator, what you need to do to get your book out in stores, and how to speak to retailers and everything like that. It was incredible, and completely the cost of the comic. So you're giving free game.
Yeah.
We have a lot of comic book creators in our community who are up and coming and would like to break in. So if you could, what would be the one biggest piece of advice you could give to any comic book creator who wants to be where you are?
I heard Tom Taylor say this at a speech last night, and it's what a lot of you were there for that. It's what a lot of it's been said before, it'll be said again, but it really is the truth. It's like don't wait for somebody else to give you authorization to do your thing. Don't wait for a Dark Horse, a DC, a Marvel, an Image, or whatever to say make your comic now. Just make your comic.
Yeah.
And it's really tough, man, to have a job or to be going to school and to find the time to sit down at the table and get it done, but it's really like put your cell phone away, put the internet away, put everything away. Don't let anybody tell you that they need you to do this. Like, set a time for yourself every day where from this hour to this hour, I'm making comic books. I'm not doing anything else.
Right.
And whether it be, if you're working a 9-to-5 job, you're tired when you come home. Give yourself a reasonable goal. Like every week, if I just do half an hour each day or whatever you can manage, like hopefully more, but if you can only manage half an hour a day, every morning when I wake up, I get my kids into daycare, and then I go to the coffee shop and I write for an hour and a half or an hour or whatever I can. It's not very long, but at the end of the year, it all adds up.
Right.
It all adds up. You don't think about every day. You just think about, okay, well, if I do this for a year, this is good. Then I'm going to have a 52-page comic or whatever. Start small. Don't start with a big giant graphic novel. Do a 10-page story, then do a 20-page story. Just keep getting bigger and bigger, and just don't let anything get in your way. It's very tough though. You got to keep yourself inspired and just keep your nose to the grindstone, I guess. It's a monthly deadline-driven thing, so you can't wait for the muse to come and give you some magical thing. You just got to get down there, get on the table, and just push through it. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you guys at home appreciate that. I strongly suggest you go buy Kaya. It's only 12 issues in right now, so it's easy to jump on board. Do you mind if I?
Yeah.
There's this beautiful trade out right now that collects, how many issues? This collects the first 5.
1 to 5.
Yeah, so this is an easy buy.
A little prelude, intro thing that's kind of like, if you like that, that's actually available online too. I have it on Webtoon and stuff, so it's like, if you like that, it's like a little free sample. If you like that, check out the book.
Absolutely. Wes, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. You guys at home, keep watching. We have a ton more coming your way. Interviews from the show floor, cosplay, you name it. We got it all at the Comics Pals. I'm Sean. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Cheers.